So a group of whistleblowers held a peaceful demonstration outside the state capture inquiry during President Cyril Ramaphosa's appearance there this week. Well, the president has thanked whistleblowers in the past and acknowledged their role in exposing corruption in government and state-owned enterprises. The active citizens movement wants more protection for them. Cynthia Stimple says she was suspended from South African Airways in 2016 and eventually driven out of her job for exposing wrongdoing. She was also part of that demonstration outside the State Capture Commission this week and joins us now to talk more about the president's evidence. Cynthia, afternoon, second time that you and I are speaking this week. Having listened to the president on, I think it was Wednesday and Thursday this week, do you think you have been heard?
To an extent, thank you, Thembekile, for inviting me on the show. I think to an extent, because he acknowledged that there is the need to assist whistleblowers and to support them. He also acknowledged that legislation needs to be changed, and similarly, in the same vein, said that he needs to form some organization to support them. So for me is that I need to see him actually taking the action now. There has to be a plan and it must be done. It shouldn't be just talk and then left for months and months. It should be done now, and we're willing to assist in the process.
But it was also interesting listening to the president saying he too, high up as he was in government as deputy president, was getting news of what was going on via the media, NGOs and the rest of it. And I wonder how, as a whistleblower, you feel when you hear that, when there were whistleblowers in various parts of government and SOEs who were speaking out, and then you've got a person who was deputy president of the country saying, yes, he had knowledge, but it was limited knowledge of the extent of the problem.
Exactly, Thembekile. That is, for me, is how could they hesitate when they are at senior level, being the top 6 in cabinet, and they have all the tools before them. For instance, the Constitution and the various acts, the PFMA Act, the Municipal Act, and whatever legislation that goes with it. There should have been direct support from our organizer, from our deputy president. And so it is disconcerting to me, that there hasn't been this focus on doing something about it and taking action at the time. It's okay to sit and listen and say, yes, I've heard you, and then leaving it to the parties to solve themselves. This is exactly why whistleblowers are getting victimized and retaliated against. We would not have known about any of the corruption if it hasn't been for whistleblowers. And whistleblowers are really the defenders of democracy. They're the vanguards. They are the ones putting themselves, personal risk, out there to stop any fraud, any wrongdoing, any corruption. So when I hear someone like our current president, who was in the role of deputy president, to have done something and he didn't take action because he wasn't sure how to do it, it doesn't sit well with me at all.
So do you think then that people who are working in government, who are working in SOEs, and let's broaden it out, the private sector, because the private sector is the partner in corruption to government so far, as we know, would you say that people who are executives, who are workers, would feel more comforted now, speaking out now?
No, I personally don't think so. We've heard our president speak out before on various issues. About a year ago, he said he would form an integrity commission. That integrity commission has not yet been formed. Many other decisions he said would take place. They haven't done it. So for me, there is cold comfort. I do not think that he's going to get it ready in a short frame of time. And even if I say 3 months, let's say 6 months, I don't think so. Would any future whistleblower have the comfort? I doubt it. Because if they speak out now, already the legislation is not in place. The pillars of how do you help whistleblowers, that should be in place. And we're best to start then from government supporting to say, this is what we want done. We're willing to work with them and put the various pillars in place. Then I would have a stronger belief that it would get done.
And that's especially worrying, Cynthia, pardon me, because the president, on the last day of his evidence at the inquiry, said, well, South Africa will likely never see a repeat of the state capture episode of the past, well, the 9 years to 2017, as per what the inquiry is looking into. But for that promise to become a reality, it is people like yourself, people who do blow the whistle, who would be crucial to avoiding a repeat of what we saw.
Exactly. And, you know, they call it the enablers who allowed it to happen too. So our various banks have been part of this. They've been enablers. Our accounting firms have been enablers. And the legal fraternity, all those lawyers who are defending key corruption from a monetary perspective and not from an ethical perspective. How does that sit in our country right now? So there for me is still, we haven't got all our structures in place, and I cannot foresee us trying to stop corruption. Right now, case in point, which I've mentioned in a previous interview, is that we have PRASA, who we know has already been unable to deliver. They've had ordered 1064 trains which do not fit our tunnels. How was that possible? How did that pass? And that cost us billions. And then the very people who stopped it within the organization are now currently being victimized. If anything, if Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, right now believes what he says, he would right now stop the retaliation at PRASA immediately. And the board that's there should start behaving like board members with ethical oversight. They should do their homework. They should interrogate. They cannot take old information from a previous corrupt board and then enact on it without doing their own independent investigation, because that's what board is supposed to be.
And Cynthia, on Wednesday, at the start of the president's evidence, you were among a group of activists, as I was saying, coming into the conversation, who had a memorandum. You were going to demonstrate peacefully. Is that memorandum now currently with the presidency, and have you heard anything from them?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we did demonstrate peacefully, and I'm very happy to say that we were allowed to by the then security and the police around us. We did manage to get word to the president via prior arrangement already a week before. We put all arrangements in place. And yes, it was signed by a representative. He has got it. I believe it's been acknowledged that he's received it. To date, maybe it's still early days, we haven't heard anything directly what the plan of action is.
And I mentioned the corporate industry, the business industry, as a partner in what's going on in this country. And one of the things you're suggesting, perhaps, is making them pay penalties for abuse of whistleblowers. Do you think financial losses will be what finally gets whistleblowers protection, especially within corporate and SOEs and government?
Exactly. We should be setting up a whistleblowing fund out of this. The penalties that's paid, where does it go to? You know, and where's that money kept? On the there's the fraud account where they recoup money from fraudulent actions. It's sitting in an account called Kara. Who's utilizing that money, and how is it spread out to others? So there are ways and means that whistleblowers can be helped. There are ways and means that people that have committed corruption should either be sued in their personal capacity, because as being a director, especially executives and various top level seniority in organizations, they should be sued in their personal capacity. The funds of that should go into an account, which should then be helping those whistleblowers. And we shouldn't be in this position that we are at present. There should be other mechanisms that perhaps CEOs who take on positions that say that I stand in the face of my company protecting its reputation, and therefore we abide by our code of conduct of that organization. They should be making donations to this proposed whistleblowing fund and ensuring that whoever in their organization whistleblows should not be victimized, should not be retaliated against.
Cynthia Stimple, good to speak to you as always. Thank you for your time today.